You're listening to Ship Fam. This is part 2 of a 2-part episode on Dribble Game, the viral NBA trivia app that I've been running with my business partner, Taylor Stein. Last week, we discussed the app's current numbers, 5K daily active users and $100 gross daily revenue, and how I need to 5x that to achieve ramen profitability. This episode covers my 50-day game plan for 5xing revenue and achieving financial freedom. I developed a game plan with the help of Steve Young from AppMasters, who did an ASO and paywall conversion audit of the app. I've included links to AppMasters' website and Steve Young's YouTube channel in the show notes.
So folks listening in, Casey is going to go ahead, and you're not going to be able to see this, but he's going to show notes from a AppMasters audit with Steve. You should definitely check him out at appmasters.com. He's got a great YouTube channel too.
I was pretty happy with him. He was definitely super focused on ASO and paywall optimization, and I'm kind of in a specific niche with games, so I would have loved to hear a little more about ads from him. But of course, I mean, that's not really his specialty, so I can't expect it from him. One hilarious thing is Steve is a bit of a basketball fan himself, not huge, but enough to know some of the big players and things like that. And he kept getting distracted during the audit because he was trying to play the game.
I guess his son is like definitely the hoops fan, so maybe he can teach us how to play better than we already can because I'm horrible at it.
Yeah. I mean, you and me were embarrassing in the call, not a clue about NBA. The funny thing is he followed up with me in an email after that, and his son already knew about our game and was watching the influencer that put us on the map and saw the influencer's videos. Yeah. I bet that's fun for Steve to be able to tell his kid, hey, you know that app you know about? I was just teaching them how to do things.
That's amazing. I love that.
I was wondering what your thoughts were on the app audit.
So for you on the app audit, I think the most incredible thing to me was his idea for keywords. Like, for example, your app is targeting, it's like basketball trivia, but I never in a million years would have thought to use like team names, like NBA team names or NBA player names and stuff like that in keywords. And then when we looked into it, they actually looked really strong.
Yep. Yeah, there's some pretty cool keywords we're going to hit. There's stuff like Miami Heat, Golden State Warriors, of course. One I realized after that talk, one thing he pointed out was you can target real-world brands, and people will be searching that real-world brand on the App Store, even if they don't have an app. And after he said that, like after the meeting, I realized that exact thing had more or less already happened to us. So there's a product, it's like a smart basketball, and they do have an app, but their product's a smart basketball called Dribble Up. And we got a support email from somebody complaining about how their Dribble Up basketball wasn't working. So it's like, by accident, we already keyword sniped this company Dribble Up without even trying. So now I'm wondering how much keyword traffic can we get if we actually try?
Well, I remember when we looked up that one and some of the others, we found that the actual amount of searches for it, we don't have exact numbers. We just kind of have like a 0 to 100 vibe check on it. But it was actually pretty strong. And strong enough that when we went to go ahead and prioritize these, it got put in our P0 bucket.
Yeah. So I'm pretty excited to see what keywords do. It's a bit tough for me because I have literally no priors about how effective this is going to be. We're getting around 300 new users a day right now off App Store, search and browse. So is this going to like double, triple, 5x or no effect? I mean, I just have no idea what my expectations should be going into this.
Yeah, it's so hard to know because you guys are already getting really strong downloads. I mean, 200 to 300 a day, like that's wild stuff. Like most people who are building these apps on the side, which is 1 or 2 people, could only dream of those numbers. So if this could even increase that by 30%, that would still be massive. But my gut check is that it could even double it. And I don't have anything to base that off of other than just the fact that you guys aren't really doing a lot of ASO. Like you're really strong in your branded search terms. So for things like dribble, gritty, dribble games, swipe ball. So people can find it if they already know about you. But it doesn't seem like you're getting a lot of people who are just running into you searching for unrelated things.
Yeah. I mean, it's tricky because App Store browse, I don't entirely know what that means. And I talked to Steve about it too, and it sounded like even with all his expertise, it's kind of a black box. We get a good chunk of people from App Store browse, like 100-ish. So I think that's just people I don't know, they get recommended it and they click on it.
You must be getting recommended because the downloads are so strong.
Yeah. So I wonder if ASO affects App Store Browse too. I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe.
Oh, Casey, I wonder if App Store Browse includes at the bottom of an App Store page, because you and I found some competitors by just scrolling to the bottom of the Dribble page and seeing like related ones. I wonder if that counts as App Store Browse.
Yeah, I was just thinking that exact same thing too. I bet it does because there's no explicit search query associated with that.
And actually, that's a nice call out for people listening is if you're trying to find competitors, you can literally just go to your App Store listing and just scroll to the bottom and it will give you, I think, 4 to 8 competitors that you can look at. And then from there, you can kind of see what their competitors are. And very quickly, you can build out a graph of similar apps in your space.
Yeah, App Store does your comp analysis for you. And we actually found some pretty crazy competitors of mine. Like Sport Tricks was really, really lazy. Not to be mean to the guy, it looks like a kid's project kind of thing. App that's
Kid's
doing
project
basically
is killing it though.
Yeah, he's absolutely killing it on rankings. He's got like 3 to 4x the number of App Store ratings as us. And it's just like such a low effort looking brand and product. And that is really killing me because it's like, okay, I got to be able to beat this guy here. The best, though, why don't you tell us about Flappy Dunk?
Was it Flappy Hoops? Is that the one?
Yeah, no, it's Flappy Dunk. Flappy Dunk.
Flappy Dunk. Oh my God, I saw that and I just started laughing so hard. It's literally like a port of Flappy Bird, but it's a basketball and you have to like actually get it into basketball hoops that are moving instead of like trying to dodge something. And the thing is crazy. It's got an insane amount of reviews. It's like in the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, it's something like number 39 in sports on the App Store, which is just absurd. And it's been around for a while, too, so it's not just a blip at number 39. It's like holding number 39. Absolutely.
Okay, I got it here. It's got 500K ratings on iOS, and it's got 200K ratings on Google Play.
It's just absolutely insane. But yeah, I think the ASO investigation, it's the kind of thing I don't like doing, so I've just like really dreaded it. And honestly, it ended up being a lot of fun because we just found wild stuff like this.
Honestly, that's one of my favorite things about doing mobile apps is that you just run into stuff that seems like it shouldn't be making any money, and it's just like cranking revenue. And you're like, oh my, there is a God. There is a God. This is proof that God exists and he has a sense of humor.
Yeah. 98% of app developers quit right before the app that makes them a millionaire. It's proven.
Right, it's proven. Doesn't matter if you do 2 apps or 49 apps. It's still the one that you quit right before you become a millionaire.
Exactly. That's the secret.
Yeah. I was going to actually say, one of the things, people can't see the chart that you have up, but I was wondering, unless you had something you want to talk about, we had a really interesting way of handling this, I thought, which is that we did our prioritization from P0 as highest, then P1, P2, P3. And then from there, we decided where we wanted them to go in the actual App Store listing.
Yeah. So based off how important I thought it was for us to rank, I put it in the title versus subtitle versus the keyword list. And one trick Steve told us that you can also find in his YouTube content and a lot of other places is you can use, it's just the most mind-bending trick, but if you create a second App Store localization, so the example I'm going to use is Spanish Mexico, Apple will index that location in English US. So it's super confusing, but what you do is you create a Spanish Mexico listing, and then you just have the exact same content as your English listing, which is what that audience would have seen anyway if you're not already localizing, except you change the keywords in your title, subtitle, and keywords list. And it's just basically a free extra set of places to inject keywords into ASO. And the reasoning is Apple has users who are set as English US, but speak Spanish, maybe have friends in Spanish Mexico locale, etc., and they'll look up Spanish keywords on the English App Store, and Apple wants them to be able to find your app that way. And so if you put just straight English language keywords you're trying to target in those alternate localizations, the App Store just happily indexes it for you anyway, because it has no way of knowing if it's like Spanish terms that a Spanish speaker in the US might be searching for.
All right, I'm going to make a prediction here. My prediction here is that once Apple gets their stuff together with AI and LLMs, this is the first thing that's going to go. They'll be ranking whether these are they'll be ranking whether your Spanish localization is 100% English or like 100% Spanish, and then just like giving warning messages if it's not Spanish enough. I don't know how they're going to pull that off, but like it seems like an obvious thing for them to try to fix.
I don't know why they haven't done that already. My one theory is it can get really complicated. Like, maybe you just used a different set of English words in another locale intentionally.
Right.
An example I can think of is famously
like
the
Spanglish
Chevy.
or the like Hindu English, where they're always doing mixed English and Hindi phrases.
I mean, the example here, this one's really extra confusing to drive home how complicated the edge cases get. Have you heard the story of the Chevy Nova?
Yeah, I have, but I want you to tell it.
Yeah, for the audience. So Chevy launched the Chevy Nova, and it did reasonably well in the US, and then they launched it in Mexico, and it tanked. Because in Spanish, Nova means doesn't go. So they were trying to sell the Chevy doesn't go in Mexico.
You can imagine a horrible idea for a car. My God.
So you could imagine if you were Chevy and you were smart and Nova were an app, you wouldn't call it the Nova in your Spanish localization. You would give it some other name. Who knows? Maybe even an English name. You see in a lot of markets, English names are considered like exciting and quality and hip. So the brands will very proactively use English names, even if they're entirely localized to a non-English speaking market. So I think that's probably why they haven't done it. Maybe an LLM could solve this, but it seems like a pretty hard problem to solve.
Now, what's interesting is the actual keyword list we came up with, determining what was high priority, that in and of itself was a little bit of an art. And one of the things that I remember us doing, and I'd love to hear more from you, is we looked through and tried to figure out, like, if somebody was searching for this, how likely they would be looking for an app like yours. That was one of the strategies that we had. It was like relevancy scoring, and that was just like a vibe check. There's not like an algorithm for that.
Yeah, that was an Astro, which is the ASO tool we're using for the audience's reference. I'd love if there were one that gave us a sense of how well targeted the keyword is. As an example, one of our game modes is called Gritty, and it turns out there's a ton of grid collage builders for things like Instagram that use the term gritty. I think one of them got popular for gritty, and then all the copycats started ranking for gritty to try and snipe their traffic. So hilariously, I believe I'm either second or first for gritty now because we had such strong search traffic, and you and I even ran an experiment asking your Twitter followers to search gritty and then install my app from the search results. So I think I'm actually first or second for that keyword, which is a pretty high traffic, high difficulty keyword. But I don't think it really does anything for me other than people actively searching me because they already know about me. Because gritty is mostly associated with grid collages.
Yeah, because I remember when we did that, the reason I wanted you to rank high for gritty is because you had an influencer who had just talked about your gritty game mode. And I was worried that somebody was going to go search for gritty and be looking for you. But I agree that like people who are looking for grid collages, they're going to see you in the top ranked there. And they're probably not going to download their app. Like for them, they'll be confused why it's even showing up.
Yeah. Yep. How long do you think it is before I get a Play Store rating of 1 out of 5 stars saying I couldn't figure out how to build my Instagram collage?
I don't know. That's pretty funny. But actually, I just checked your ranked number 2, which is still pretty amazing.
Nice. Yeah. Super, super strong. And that was kind of a related hack that I haven't heard other people talking about. And we discovered it by accident. And that's influencer campaigns where they say, search this on the App Store, are killer for your ASO.
Oh,
Taylor and I
yeah.
discovered that completely by accident because we were paying a guy on Instagram to do some Let's Plays of our game. And we told him, hey, do the whole link in bio song and dance because, of course, Instagram doesn't let you put the link in the video description because they don't want you to link off platform. And he told us that link in bio gets penalized by the Insta algorithm. And I don't actually know that for sure. Later, I actually asked a friend that works in the ads industry and has some connections to Meta. And she says that it's not like confirmed, but it's basically common knowledge in the industry. So the influencer says, I don't want to do that. I want to just verbally tell them to go on the App Store and download you. And we were kind of skeptical because that's so high friction. But we immediately saw a huge spike in our rankings in our organic app store discovery after we got like a reasonably sized spike from his users searching us. So it's like app store ranking steroids to have an influencer campaign calling out your branded terms or even your keywords. I'm tempted to do a keyword campaign with an influencer, though I think that might violate Apple's policies. I would have to look into that before I actually do it.
Well, it's really interesting because that particular influencer that you paid to do that campaign, your cost to install was crazy low. It was like in the single digit cents from what I remember. And then on top of that, now that we know now that we've learned more about it, we realize that not only were you getting installs like for pennies, but you were also getting your ASO supercharged for pennies.
Yep. So like it was second order installs had to be down to like 2 cent cost per install. The downside is it was a pretty small influencer who was kind of undercharging, to be honest. And he quickly stopped delivering installs because we saturated his audience after the third video. And we tried finding more influencers in that sweet spot. And they're honestly just really hard to work with because you're talking like 5,000 to 10,000 followers on Insta. And these tend to just be kind of like, one of them was kind of a goofy stoner kid, lovable kid, but he's like not on the ball. And it's just super, super hard to get something good out of him, even for the like low prices he's charging. So that ended up not being something we could scale super well. But it did give us such a strong kickstart. That's the great thing about those kinds of tactics is it seems like our rankings have been pretty sticky and kind of snowbally. So that got our foot in the door. And then after that, we almost don't need to run influencer campaigns nearly as much anymore.
Yeah, that's so true. It seems like the perfect thing to do at the beginning of your go-to-market campaign.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing to get back to keywords, I put a lot of trademarked terms in my keywords. One I noticed from our App Store ASO investigation is 2K24, for those that don't know, that's a basketball sports game sponsored by the NBA. So that's NBA 2K24. Gets a lot of search traffic. And of course, that's a trademark name. I can't really call myself NBA 2K4, and it's a hard keyword to rank for. So I can throw it in my keywords, but I'm not sure that's high value because it's a pretty difficult keyword to rank for. I put it in my title and my subtitle in Spanish Mexico. And I didn't put NBA 2K24 like verbatim, obviously. That's not going to work. I put Dribble Hoops Trivia Season 2K24.
Season as SZN, right?
Yeah, abbreviated. And I'm hoping Apple doesn't ding me for using a trademark term and reject it. But they might. It's kind of in a gray area because Season 2K24, well, 2K just means 2000. So I'm just saying Season 2024. But I'm also kind of saying it with a shit-eating grin. So
Right. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I feel like if somebody gives you a hard time on that, you can just respond and say, oh, this is 2024, and just see what they say. I would be shocked if they have this actually trademarked.
Yeah, I don't know if you can trademark 2K24 on its own. I mean, certainly you can trademark the phrase NBA 2K24.
Right.
Yeah, I've thought about doing stuff like 2K24 Companion and even creating a game mode around it.
You actually probably just build your next indie app as a 2K24 Companion. There's actually a guy, he's in the Flutter community on Twitter, and he does only video game companion apps. And I don't know what his exact revenue numbers are, but the last thing I heard, he was killing it. And he was just building these like Flutter web apps that also had like a mobile companion with them. And it was basically things like guides and walkthroughs for popular video games.
Okay, you got to figure out who this is because I want him on the show so bad right now. I really want to learn from this guy. This is the exact kind of stuff I'm running through in my head right now.
So if you could do that with we should do an episode with him talking about how you can do like a 2K24 companion app and then just start like cross-promoting in Dribble would be insane.
I think even just a game mode too. I kind of love that about Dribble is because it's game mode centric. I can basically greenfield a new app inside of my pre-existing app, and then I don't get the top of funnel ASO benefits as much as I could because I only have so much keyword space to work with. But on the other side, I can bootstrap really fast that way because I have a pre-existing audience that's going to see the new game mode right there in the app. and I just have all the infrastructure built up. And then that really helps me rank high for even really difficult keywords. Like Dribble is killing it on some really challenging keywords, and some that you would feel would be big but aren't. Like basketball trivia, I was sure was going to be a super tough keyword, but it's not that popular and not that difficult, but we're ranked 1 on it, and that's kind of a fun vanity metric.
Well, that just reminded me of something really funny that happened when we were going through this exercise, which was before it said Dribble Game Sports Trivia. Is that what it said previously?
No, it was...
Or Dribble Game Trivia.
No, I think it was Dribble Game Trivia. I think it was just Dribble Game Trivia.
Well, this was interesting because we were trying to figure out like what we could change out for game, right? Mm-hmm. And we were looking through all the keywords and trying to find something, and like basketball wasn't fitting. And I can't remember what happened, but at some point someone said, hey, what about hoops? And we looked it up, and hoops is like actually a killer keyword. And that whole time in your first screenshot on the App Store, in big banner at the top, it says, think you know hoops, ? And nobody even thought to like check the hoops keyword. And you've been using it as like a leading keyword in your App Store screenshot this whole time. So eventually we decided to go for Dribble Hoops Trivia, which we don't know what the effect of that is going to be, but I think it's going to make a huge difference.
Yeah, if I don't rank highly for hoops on this first go-round, I'm going to do a round 2 where I really aggressively target hoops. It's a pretty difficult keyword, but it's also super popular. And from looking at the apps there, what it looks like is it's just a very standard game phrase that's been used to associate with basketball. So when you're creating a basketball game, basketball is kind of a clunky word that doesn't sound fun. So instead, you call it a hoops game. So it'd be like
that's perfect then, because if you guys can rank high for hoops, then it's like the exact kind of people that you want to download your stuff.
Yep, exactly. So I think hoops was probably the biggest like aha moment, and funnily enough, it was at the last second where I think it was
literally the last minute.
Yeah, it was like, hey man, my title is kind of wasting space with game in here, and I can't fit basketball. What do we throw in?
Yeah, it's amazing how that works out. I'm excited to see how that goes.
Yeah, to wrap up on ASO, once again, I'm just really not sure what to expect. I know there was a guy on Build in Public Twitter that I was just talking to, Florian Vates. I don't know if you know him.
Name's familiar.
He was just doing his own ASO work for Reminder, just like a reminder app. And he was saying he was basically getting flat results and not really sure what to do about it. So I just don't know what to expect out of this. Is it going to go well? Is it going to be flat? If it is flat, do I just have to double down and try something new? I'm curious. Maybe we could go back to Steve. He already told me he really wants to hear how things go. So I want to be cognizant of the guy's time. He's got to make a living, but I'm also curious to send our results and, hey, maybe even pay for another session if we're not getting the results we want out of this first round of ASO.
Yeah, that's cool. It'd also be fun to find someone who's like the Steve of indie game, like mobile games. I don't know who that would be, but they have to exist somewhere.
Yeah, I'd love to talk more to game devs. One of my good friends is a game developer, and he keeps bugging me to like go to GDC with him and things like that, now that I'm a game developer too. And there's always kind of like a friendly rivalry between us because I was the Silicon Valley FANG employee doing software engineering. And he was always the like scrappy game dev.
You're not software engineering anymore. You're more like software cobbling now.
Yeah. Oh, I feel humiliated. No, I mean, we always made fun of each other for it now. So he's like, all right, man, you're a game dev now. You're in my world. Let's go to some events together. And I really ought to take him up on it.
That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, so that was the first half of the Steve app audit. He really focused on ASO, kind of gave us a game plan, pointed us in the right direction. The second half was almost entirely focused on paywall optimization. And that's somewhere where I think I have much stronger priors. To me, ASO is a total black box. I just don't know what to expect results-wise. But with paywall, there's a lot of things where my gut check is I can easily get like 2 to 3x multipliers there. So just to recap, my current paywall and monetization are it's a free app, and we have interstitial and banner ads that probably account for together about 50% of our revenue. The other 50% is you can get our Pro subscription, which the primary thing it does is it removes ads, but we also throw in a bunch of little bonus features, some of which have driven decent conversions. It's like each game has extra things you can do if you're a pro. And our pricing right now is monthly, which is priced at $3.99. We've got a 24-hour battle pass, which was one of your recommendations from like months ago that has really killed it. It's like by far what sells the best right now. So that's just a one-time purchase. You get Pro for 24 hours. And then finally, we've got a yearly, which is $39.99. And that one really hasn't performed well, which has been a bummer. And I think there's a lot of stuff we can do there. First, Steve recommended bumping our battle pass price and our monthly price to $2 and $4.99 respectively. I think that's really smart. We ought to try it. Though right now we're getting almost no conversions on anything but Battle Pass. So I'm not sure if Battle Pass is just cannibalizing everything, or also something seems like it just kind of went wrong in our funnel, because I was checking recently and top of funnel for people that saw the paywall just really dropped off a cliff like 2 weeks ago, and I don't really know why.
Do you have stats set up for your paywall funnel at this point?
We have mediocre stats. I've got like a very rough idea. I know how many people saw the paywall, and I know what call to action opened the paywall for them.
Well, that's good. And then from there, you got your revenue cat stats, right? So that should allow you to recreate the most important conversion, right?
Yeah. I think that ought to be able to do it.
Because you got number of daily visitors, and then you've got number of daily visitors that saw a paywall and for what reason. And then you have number of actual purchases, right?
Yeah. So right now I've got about 250 people seeing the paywall each day. And my purchase rate for Battle Pass is something like 3 to 4 a day. And then my purchase rate for monthly is maybe like 3 to 4 a week. So let's just count all of those as conversions. That's basically 4 conversions a day, which feels not the best. Let me do that math really quick. We've got
it definitely feels like that could be a lot stronger, and I'm sure that whatever Steve suggested here is going to help with that.
Yeah. So his first suggestion was the price bump, which of course isn't conversion focused, more just revenue focused. But the parts that were conversion focused, I'm pretty excited about. One of them was we don't have a free trial, and I think that's probably massively self-sabotaging us. His point, the reason we didn't do a free trial is that we didn't want to cannibalize Battle Pass. It was kind of our trial. It was like a $1 paid trial. But with yearly, what we can do is only offer the trial on the annual. And then that's probably going to cannibalize Battle Pass a lot.
Which is not a bad thing.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a bad thing. The upside is now we're like getting people to upgrade to yearly from monthly. About a month ago, I changed the default subscription option from monthly to yearly. And funnily enough, I got 2 yearly signups that day and haven't gotten one since.
Oh, that's
so
interesting.
There's something really weird happening with our paywall that I have yet to figure out.
What happens if you just try swapping in like a revenue cap paywall that's like known to work?
Wouldn't be a bad idea. Yeah, I haven't thought about that yet, but I think that would be interesting just to see if I'm like secretly doing something really dumb.
Yeah, like what if this whole time it was just like breaking for half of people and just we didn't know about it? You know what I mean?
That's kind of, I feel like something like that must be happening, because I'm looking at my funnel right now, and on like March 11th, I was getting steady about 350 paywall views. And then it dropped to like 200.
Okay, so those are people who were seeing the button and tapping on it and opening it themselves, right?
Yes. And let me double check. That may be where we got the majority of our losses. If so, that's pretty hilarious. I forget why we changed to hide ads. I think I was under the impression that was going to be lower conversion, but apparently I wasn't smart enough to A/B test it. Okay, I'm going to check that offline, and I'm going to insert back in here the results for you guys just so I don't leave you all on a cliffhanger. Here is Postscript Casey here resolving this question. That was when I accidentally shipped a build with some performance bugs that chased away a bunch of our DAOs. And so, of course, people weren't converting while the build was buggy. And then by the time the bug was resolved, it looks like we had lost enough DAOs that our top of funnel was permanently depressed. We're starting to recover our user numbers now, so I'm hoping to see conversions tick back up.
Cool, sure. What were Steve's biggest items for the paywall? Like, is there a bullet point list that you want to look into?
Yeah. So let's get back on track there. His bullet points were, we need to bump the price. I mentioned that. We need to add
I wanted to say something about the price bump. So I definitely think that doing a trial on annual would be interesting just to see the results. But the way I see pricing, and this is still very early for me, is that let's say you start getting a bunch of people on the annual and it's all tilted to annual, but you want to see like a more diverse makeup of these purchases. Then it feels like the perfect time to start playing with the price. So then you could start like increasing the price on annual until you start getting more battle pass purchases. Or do you see what I'm saying? So you're just trying to like figure out what your ideal balance is and then just change the prices until you get that balance.
Yeah, so my logic has been, with all the recommendations Steve gave me, to start working on them from the top of funnel downward, because right now we're just not getting enough revenue flow to work effectively with it. So I think,
sure.
Yeah, I think that's going to help a lot. I do want to just like slowly play with the prices and bounce them around. I may do the price bump on Battle Pass and monthly as my final step.
Yeah. What were the other items on the list?
Yeah, one thing he suggested was consider adding a yearly price to the monthly option. So imagine you've got your paywall, you're displaying your options. He's found one thing that really helps is under monthly, do the math for them and tell them how much that will cost them a year, because that can really anchor things and make the yearly look comparatively really good. Because in the default state, the yearly just looks visibly expensive because it's a larger number. Grug Brain sees the large number and gets scared. So if you have
this
a large
is interesting
number
because I always like doing the opposite because, and hear me out, if you show the annual price, then it makes your monthly and weekly look expensive. But if you show the equivalent monthly price, then it makes your annual look cheap. And so that's the way that I like to do it.
Yeah, and that is actually what I'm doing right now. I'm really curious. I might A/B test that, which is the leading price, the yearly or the month per month, because I kind of have the same intuition as you that it looks good to show your yearly with the per month calculation below it.
So Steve actually saw that you were doing by month and then suggested you do it by year?
Yeah. Though it wasn't the kind of thing where he asserted that really aggressively. He didn't say that by month was bad. He simply said that he's seen yearly quoted prices to perform very well. And
that's super interesting. That may be something I want to try, actually.
Yeah, one thing that's great about his audit and just about the dude in general is he is very good about explaining where his position is coming from. So there he's like, okay, cool. I would suggest quoting your yearly price because, and they walked us through a couple case studies and the exact hard number results his clients got in those case studies, which is a super useful way to look at it. And just to reiterate, so I don't accidentally put words in the dude's mouth, he didn't explicitly say that monthly quoting was bad. He just simply said that he's seen yearly quoting do really well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Next, there was a lot of stuff around the copy in the store page.
Oh, yeah. Some of this is actually pretty funny.
Yeah. My favorite was he said, just putting the word free somewhere in your paywall copy it generally leads to a bunch of conversions. So it's stuff like, I could say, hey, you get no ads and you get access to bonus features.
So it'd be like free bonus features.
Exactly, yes. So all you have to do is instead of it comes with no ads and it comes with bonus features, you say it comes with no ads and you get free bonus features.
Right. Or like you could say like bullet point no ads, bullet point free extra games or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah, which, I mean, real companies selling products do this too. You go to the supermarket and the laundry detergent bottle always says 33% more free. It's just the exact same strategy.
What does that even mean?
I know. What does it mean for the subscription to come with free game modes? But apparently users.
But you're paying for them. You're paying for them, but because you paid for it, you get them for free.
So you only paid for 100% of the bottle, and then you got the 33% extra for free.
For free. Yeah. Amazing. That one was, when I first saw this, I just kind of shook my head. I was like, oh God, this is insane. But the thing that I love about mobile app development is that the first time you see a gray pattern, the more you talk to yourself about it, the less it feels like a gray pattern, the more it feels like a great idea. And so I'm interested to see how this works for you.
Yep. Yeah, I'm excited to try it. I am a little worried that it could be users literally getting confused and not realizing they were about to pay. That was my knee-jerk response, is like, I really don't want to be straight up scamming somebody. I think
Well, that's what the refund feature is in the App Store, right?
Yeah, and then also Google and Apple both have their own payments flow that follows the buy button. So I think it'd be pretty hard for somebody to not realize that they were paying for something.
They'd have to really fat finger it. And to Apple's credit, they have a very generous refund policy on digital products.
Yeah.
Pretty much anybody can just shoot them an email and it'll get refunded within 24 hours.
Yep. So let's jump through a few more of the things he said. One that was also kind of interesting, also with copy, he said, we have at the bottom, become a pro as our buy button.
Yes.
Yeah, and he suggested that we switch it to continue. I think the logic is continue feels a lot less scary than...
Yeah, it's a lot lower friction. You're just like, let's continue as opposed to let's join or let's become a member or... Because becoming a member or joining, they feel like you're about to kick off a process, but continue feels like you're just like going down a slide or something.
Yeah, I'm also realizing too, now that I say it out loud, become a pro is kind of vague. I almost wonder, I want to do, three-way test might be cool to try become a pro, buy pro, and then continue. My gut check is become a pro might perform the worst there.
And then another good example of this is on login screens. People do this all the time where the login button will say something like sign in or log in. A really good one is get started. So get started is pretty strong because there's a little bit of like anticipation and excitement behind it. So you can tap get started and then show the onboarding flow. And then when you get to the end of the onboarding flow, you can have like a continue with Apple. And then that allows you to finish up the actual authorization, just like a side note.
Yeah, it's funny how much just tweaking copy can really drive changes. I forget the exact numbers he quoted us, but I think we were talking on the order of 2 to 4x for stuff like putting free in the paywall or continue.
Microcopy, getting microcopy right is huge, and a lot of indie devs just don't think about it.
Yep. I don't know if I should say it on the podcast because maybe somebody will steal my $1 million idea, but I've thought about doing an indie bootstrap product that I don't know exactly the details, but it would probably be an A/B testing suite that is paywall centric. And the main thing it does is as an LLM looking at all the users' A/B tests on microcopy. And then when I want to create microcopy for my app, I ask the LLM for recommendations, and it has all this history of A/B testing to recommend the best microcopy.
Yeah, a microcopy optimizer would be pretty awesome.
Yep.
Especially because it just takes so much time to write if you don't have a lot of experience with it. Even that alone would be worth it.
Yeah, and it's all guesswork too. It's like I don't have a big enough funnel to run 10 experiments with 10 different buy button copy. And really that's what I need to do to find the right answer, because it's all these really subtle ways the user could emotionally respond to the copy that's super hard to predict. And the only way is to just try it, but without just insane top of funnel, you're just not going to have any statistical significance for testing all the microcopy you'd really want to test.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to close out on the paywall advice, there are a couple other ones. One was offer a discounted offer to the user after they dismiss the paywall. So an in-app banner or even a push notification if they've closed the app saying, hey, try it for 50% off. Another one, this was the one I'm actually most excited about, and it was a pretty big paradigm shift for me, so I'd love to dive into that. We don't have an onboarding flow, and my logic is we're a game. We're not a traditional app, so I didn't think an onboarding flow made sense. I just want you to get into the game as fast as possible. He wants us to open our paywall automatically on first app session with a new user, but he wants us to do that at the end of an onboarding flow, because just doing that on first app session is just completely abrupt. The user has no context, and you're not going to get a great conversion. You may still, but it's not going to be ideal. He wants us to sell our app in the onboarding flow. And I totally got that, but until now, it just still felt weird to me for a game to have an onboarding flow. But it really clicked for me while talking to Steve that it's about selling the app experience as well as possible. So instead of trying to get you into one of our pre-existing game modes as fast as possible, I can just create an onboarding flow that is a hand-tuned, best possible experience version of our games. So I want to build an onboarding flow that is in and of itself a game.
Yeah, I think that's good. That said, I do think there's a very real thing worth calling out here, which is that most people will pay within the first 30 seconds to 5 minutes of using the app. And so I strongly believe that if you were to just start showing your paywall as soon as they open the app on the first launch, that you would start getting conversions from that. But I also agree that having an onboarding flow before it is going to make that perform better. But I think that doing it, even just as today, just showing what you've got, I think that alone would start driving revenue.
Yeah, we have that ready behind a feature flag that I could turn on right now. We decided
I think you should do it when you get off this call. I think you should go turn it on as soon as you get off this call.
I mean, ideally, I'd run a 3-way experiment between nothing at all, paywall with no onboarding, and then paywall with onboarding.
That would be the ideal scenario, but if you go turn on right now, you can compare this week to last week and get a pretty good idea.
Okay, you've convinced me. I'm going to try it. We'll see how it goes.
Awesome. You're going to call me tomorrow morning and be like, dude, we tripled our revenue.
Or I'll call you tomorrow, hey man, we got pulled from the App Store or something. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing I'm really realizing with app dev, because to me, this is a journey I'm learning along with all you guys, is there's just so many little tricks that don't feel intuitive. Once it's fully explained to you, you get it, but you really have to sit in it for a while to understand it. There are things where people have told me, and I'm just like, that makes no sense, and it just doesn't sink in.
That's me every day in this game, dude. Somebody will say something to me, I'm going to be like, that doesn't make any sense. What is wrong with you? And then a week later, I'll be like, God damn it, they were right.
Yep. I mean, that's honestly what I've loved about and this is a bit of an aside, my build in public journey on Twitter is I met you there. I met a bunch of people where we just kind of brainstorm, talk a lot, run through ideas. And I think that really helps these things settle in for me. If somebody just says it to me once, it's not going to set in because it's so unintuitive. It's those repeated contact with people that are learning alongside me that really help me figure these things out.
That is kind of the magic of the whole space, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. So let's review. I think the big question here is I set a 5 to 10x target because I'm making $100.
Oh, actually, growth. Casey, I'm going to interrupt you because I'm seeing your notes. Sure. I see you have something in here for adding push notifications, which I think is interesting because you guys don't have any way to retarget right now. Is that right?
Yes, our only way we can retarget is we have user emails, which we haven't used yet just because we're a little scared to be spammy and not totally sure how we would run an email campaign. Short answer is no, we've never done any retargeting. I was working on push notifications today, and we don't need to get into it because it's a whole other podcast episode, but it's just so painful. Google makes it so hard. Apple makes it hard too, but more justifiably, not as bad. Google just makes it extra painful. Yeah,
so we could spend an entire episode on retargeting, but one thing I want to say is that you guys absolutely have something you can send out. You guys have daily puzzles. You could literally just send everyone a link to the daily puzzle every day, and that would be perfectly acceptable, I would think.
As an email or push notification?
Yeah, as an email or push notification. But yeah, as an email today. You could do that tonight.
Yeah. This is one of those things where I think I'm going to need to hear it a few more times. I'm just hesitant.
Literally, you could go get a MailerLite subscription, dump all the emails into it, and then just start sending out drip campaigns. And then you just make sure that there's an unsubscribe button at the bottom. And they all have that now in because of law. Mm-hmm. And so then they'll be able to unsubscribe, and you'll still have them in your email list. They'll just be unsubscribed from that type of notification.
Yeah. You're talking me into it. It's been on my list of things to do.
And it's so low effort. I mean, if you could literally just get Taylor to put like, give like each one like a certain like name or something, you know what I mean? Or like a theme, so you can have it. So it's not just like spamming like, hey, there's a new thing every day. If there's actually like a personalized subject, it was like kind of about that specific day, then that would probably be enough.
Yeah, he often creates daily games with tie-ins to topical events. Like if a player retires, the daily game, the answer is going to be the retiring player, that kind of thing.
And then if you could then get like an email sign up on the website, then you'd have like your whole retargeting funnel on email nailed down.
Yeah, it's smart. I'll add it to the list. I like that a lot. But to recap, I was at $100 gross revenue, and we paid for the Steve Appmasters audit. By the way, I was super happy with it. It was $500. I think we're gonna, at our scale, recoup that $500 super fast on the advice we got. I think what I want to do is hit that 500 mostly around the paywall and the ASO recommendations he gave us, and give myself about 30 days to hit that target. Yeah. That's a little aggressive, but I think it's doable. We really only need to 5x here. Of course, I'll be super happy if we can 10x. So I'd say like $1,000 revenue would be, daily revenue would be my stretch goal here. Really aggressive stretch goal at that point, but man, I'd be happy to hit those kinds of numbers. And I think we can get there. What do you think? Why don't we assign like gut check multipliers to the whole system here? And I
bet if you do the low hanging fruit, especially if you get like a little bit of that retargeting in just through like the daily puzzle mailer, I bet you can see a 3x on this stuff.
Yeah, so let's recap on all the ASO stuff I'm doing. I'm targeting a bunch of competitors' keywords and things like team names, etc. I'm improving my use of keywords in the title and subtitle. And I would gut check that as, what do you think, 3x as like a happy
I think 3x is what I would like to see.
Cool. Yeah, we'll throw 3x.
I honestly think that your paywall will convert way more as soon as you just flip that switch that we're talking about.
Yeah. So let's do the like final outcome at end of month. I agree. Just flipping it on tomorrow might have a big effect. But let's say we have an onboarding that's compelling, and then we have the paywall after it. We've added a trial to annual, and we've improved all the micro copy.
And you've done your keywords on the App Store.
Yeah, I'd honestly put all that paywall stuff. What do you think at like 4x? I could really see that hitting 4x.
I'm going to say 3x. 3x feels like it's definitely achievable.
Okay.
Like, I'm not a huge stretch goals guy. I'm more of like a knock something, like, I'm more of like set like a good solid goal and knock it out of the park guy.
Yeah.
So I put that at 3x.
I think that's fair. Like when I worked at Google, they said about 20% of your OKRs should end up in a bad state at the end of the quarter. Yeah. So you should be setting goals that are aggressive enough that you miss them 20% of the time, but still achievable enough that you're hitting that 80%. So I think 3x on each is probably about the 80% target. Sure. So since that's top of funnel and bottom of funnel, those two are multiplied against each other. Those two will stack. So that means that if I hit that 80% likelihood target, I'm sitting at 9x, which is a really good feeling.
I always forget that they multiply like that, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Like if I improve my ads CPM and I improve my paywall conversion actively cannibalizes ads. So those don't get to multiply together. You end up having to like average them or something like that. I think there's a circuitry and resistance metaphor to be made here.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, like parallel series circuits.
Yeah, it's like if it's different parts of the funnel, then they're multiplicative. If it's the same part of the funnel, then the relationship can get a lot more complicated.
Yeah.
Cool. So that puts us at 9x in 30 days. Why don't we slap a number on it and check back in and see where we are on that date? What date do
I'm going to slap 3x. That's what I'm going to do.
3x total.
3x in total, yeah.
Oh, man. I don't think that's aggressive enough.
I know. Maybe you should go stretch goals. Are you going to go 9?
I think 9 is. Let's stick with the 5 that I set out. That'll make me happy. That's also my ramen profitable number, which started this whole conversation.
Perfect. I think that you're going to slay 3x. That's what I think.
Sweet. Yeah, yep. I feel good on 3x. Okay, we'll set at 5. I think 9x, I think our analysis was plausible there. 3x on ASO and 3x on paywall for 9x total. But
I think you'll slay 3x. I think 5x is doable. I think 9x is stretching it.
Yeah. Well, I guess we're going to find out. Let's check back in around the start of May and see where I am. And with any luck, I'm hitting that 9x.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting.
Cool. All right. Yeah, thanks for chatting about this. This is super helpful. It really helps a lot, too, just to walk through it, because all this has been bouncing in my head. I think there's a lot of things that came out in this episode we just recorded that didn't come out in just me thinking solo about it for 2 weeks straight.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to see what the results are. And maybe in the future, I'll do an app audit with Steve. I can see myself doing one right before going to market.
Yep. Shout out to Steve.
Cool. Is that a wrap?
That's a wrap.